Hello everybody and welcome once again to my channel. My name is Jack. I'm a singer, songwriter, musician. My band is called Mera, and you can find all our releases as well as music videos, lyrics, and a whole ton of other stuff right here on this channel. But what I like to do even more than that is I want to help you empower yourself through the spiritual path of creativity. Now, that might sound a little convoluted, but all it means is believing in yourself. That's all. That's all I mean by a spiritual path to creativity. I don't preach any sort of particular spiritual path specifically. Whatever your spiritual inclinations are or lack of them, you don't have to use any of the words that I use. Like, for instance, sometimes I use the word God, but that doesn't necessarily mean the connotation that you have in your head. Like, let's say that's not a word you feel comfortable using and you want to use a different word. Maybe you want to use source. Maybe you want to say the universe, or maybe you just want to say creative energy. It's all fine, because you know what? Alan Watts once said, you can't get wet by the word water. You can't get wet by the word water. So whatever you want to call it, that's what it is to you. But I will tell you right now, spirituality and your belief in yourself and your work is definitely key in the success that you will experience as an artist. Because as an artist, our job is very different from, let's say, a banker or, someone who works with investments, or a teacher even. Not that all these people aren't creative. Lawyers, people who work in the medical field. Like, I'm not saying these aren't creative people, because I believe that everyone is creative. And more often than not, people have a creative outlet. What I'm saying is the pursuit of creativity is not linear. You don't necessarily go to school and then get a diploma and that translates. Oftentimes the creative life can be very back and forth. It can be a little chaotic and definitely unpredictable. So we're here to talk about that and recovering a sense of possibility, right? That feeling in your heart that, like, there's something happening here, and I believe in myself and I believe in what I'm doing. And that boils down to a couple things. Well, for one, we want to take ourselves very seriously, right? We don't want to look foolish pursuing our art. We don't want to look like we are delusional. We take ourselves very seriously, and we want to look like responsible adults as we pursue whatever it is we want to pursue. But at the same time, we don't take the idea that the universe is working with us. We don't take that seriously. Or that there are forces of nature that are conspiring to make sure we are successful. Or the fact that our talent that we were born with, the fact that we might think that there's not a purpose for that for some reason, that's a foolish concept. We don't take that seriously, but we want to take ourselves seriously. Well, it doesn't really work that way. You have to understand at a very, very fundamental level, nature created us, and it created who you are. What do we call nature? Creation. This is all creation. And you are the creation of a creator. And your job is to create as your gift back. So yeah, there is something to believe in. But I'm not just saying, oh, you wish for it. Let's just wish for it and it's going to come true. Of course not. You have to take steps. You have to make whatever it is you're going to make. If you're a dancer, you have to write that. You have to create that dance that you want to make. You have to shoot it. You have to show it to people. You have to put on a performance. All of these things are important. But what I guess I'm saying is you need to do them both. In other words, you can't just pray for something and you can't just work for it either. What I'm saying is you pray to catch the bus and then you run like hell. Right? If you don't want to miss the bus, you think, I'm going to miss the bus, I'm going to miss the bus. But you pray to catch the bus and you run like hell. You do both. Because when you think about it, God has all the connections you need. All the literary agents, all the booking agents, all the managers, all the clubs, all the teachers and directors and engineers and producers. God knows them all. And he knows how to place you in front of them. He knows how to make the connections that are going to help you. And I know what you're saying. You're like, well, God doesn't run the music industry. God doesn't run the literary industry. God doesn't run television. God doesn't run CAA or any of these other companies that run Hollywood. But you will hear very often in the creative life that, and also Julia Cameron talks about it a lot in her book, The Artist's Way. What she talks about is how more often than not, when you hear about how somebody got connected or made a connection in the so-called industry, it's always like, oh yeah, my best friend has a dentist whose sister is in Hollywood, and she writes, and she took a look at my script and she liked it and she passed it on to somebody else who blah blah blah, and one thing led to another. You never really know exactly how those things are going to fall into place, because you know what? The how isn't really your job. Your job is to make the art and put it out there, and then your job is to believe in yourself. Believe in that sense of possibility, because that is what's going to bring it to you. That is what is going to lead you to the path where you go to the dentist, and then the dentist mentions that their best friend actually is looking for bands to play this summer, and blah, blah, blah. That's how it works. So something else Julia Cameron talks about is finding that river. It's eventually the creative life it becomes like a flow, because when you depend on your support spiritually, and when you expect it to come from another source, another power higher than yourself, you will learn to depend on that. It will happen gradually. One thing will lead to another thing, and then you will realize, oh, well, I feel like something is supporting me here. And your faith becomes stronger that way once you take it seriously. And that will lead you to a sort of flow in your life. Periods where you create, periods where things pop up, and then periods that are a little slower when you find yourself coming up with ideas or going back to the woodshed, as they say. It's all part of the flow of a creative life. And it's sort of like finding a river. But you will find that. That is something that will happen eventually over time, because like anything, it's a learned process. And finally, I just want to say, take what you're doing seriously. Maybe it's time to really prioritize what you want to do. I'm not saying you don't have other responsibilities. Of course you do, but you got to learn sometimes when somebody asks you, well, can you do this? Can you meet me here? Oh, I need to hang out. Oh, I really need someone to talk to tonight. But this was your time. This was the time that you were going to sit down and write. This is the time that you were going to, practice your piano for 20 minutes. This is when you were going to go out and shoot some pictures. This is when you were going to do whatever it is you were going to do. You got to realize that that's your time, and you can't really let other people infringe on that. And you think sometimes, oh, but I want to be a good friend. I want to be a good father, brother, uncle. Don't get caught in the trap of being of virtue. Don't get caught in the virtue trap. and thinking that somehow you being selfless and making sure everybody else is taken care of before you take care of yourself, that can often just lead to a little resentment, maybe a lot of resentment, as well as you not accomplishing what it is you set out to do. So prioritize your work. Prioritize what you want from your artwork and take it seriously. And your artwork you will find that the universe will take your art seriously, and you will find once again that feeling of possibility inside of you that maybe was missing for a little while, because you're going to notice things open up. You got to pay attention, and you got to have an open mind about the whole process. And if you want to read more about it, I highly suggest this book right here, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Lots of great advice, lots of tools to help you with your creativity, which we talked about right here. And once again, my band's called Mera. My latest single is called Acute Uncertainty. The music video is right here on this channel. And until next time, this is Jack telling you to go forth in grace and gratitude and show the world your greatness, because you are great. Thanks, everybody.